Hello everyone. So we're working on the next pose for this. Before I begin, in case you're coming like right from the other video or remember it really well, I kind of forgot. I didn't save um in time. Like I didn't save as I was going with the second pose, and so there was a bit of a mishap and everything crashed, and I had to redo the entire second pose, which is my favorite thing to do. But that means that it probably is going to look a little bit different. I'm already looking at it here, thinking to myself like this. I already know I need this foot to be like a lot closer here. Um, so I'm thinking to myself, like, I gotta like, point 0.6, point 0.2, I gotta look at that. Um, there we go. And make sure to make that change over here as well. Because of course these things are supposed to sort of match. Um, so there we go. It'd be, let's see, I think it was like something along those lines. Whoops. There we go. Nope. See? 0.6, point 0.2. Oh, for heaven's sake. Oh, good. See how both feet are in the wrong spot? That's why it looked weird. So I'm going to do a bit of cleanup real quick. All right, so I paused the video slightly just to clean up the feet a little bit. And the thing about this orthographic view is that most of the stuff should kind of look like it's taking up the same space because we don't have that other axis. So things aren't shrinking. This foot isn't smaller than this foot because it's behind it. So if I switch from here to here, a lot of this stuff should look the same. The shoulders are swinging back and forth, so the arms are not going to be as identical, but you can kind of get a sense of like if it's at least close enough to work. But the arms are something that's not really, working out yet. We look from here, um, and it's because they're missing an extreme, right? The legs are the furthest apart here and the closest here, and so we can watch them all day and be like, oh, I need this to look different, or how is this going to come out here? But the arms are missing their furthest point apart from each other. So we need to add in what's called the down pose. And I'm going to put it here for now. And the down pose, I just have everything selected. I'm just going to hit S on the keyboard to like give myself a spot to work with. The down pose is when they're lowest to the ground. So I'm going to grab this right here. And we're going to lower them. And it's basically the part where they're like leaning forward, like ready to really land on this foot. So if walking is controlled falling, this is where you fall. Oh no! Oh no! Not that one. Absolutely not. It also involves the heel. This one being further back, and potentially even. There we go. I think I actually have to undo this a little bit. There it is. You can see how that actually straightened the leg when I turned that off. Um, so I kind of have to figure out, how I want this foot to leave the ground. And I can kind of something like that. But the arms are at their furthest apart now. And so this can help in a lot of ways. There we go here. Because when it goes into the next part of the swing, it'll make so much more sense. I got a lot of swing in this walk. It's a little excessive, but I can always tone it back later. I also want this to be, yeah, I gotta decide how much of a bend I want in this arm. Like, do I want it to be the kind of walk where they're like, it's really cartoony sounds, or let's go with that for now because this whole thing is a little bit silly anyways. There we go. And then I can grab this. There we are. And probably something along those lines. And I would also want to make sure that my head is kind of, if I look in this view, oh, my head's staying pretty steady. So if we go back to this view, I can kind of take a look and see, okay, it's here, and then it's here, and it's here. And so if we watch the arms, this is furthest, and this is closest. Furthest, closest, furthest, closest. And so that can give us a little bit of a better idea what's going on with our arms, because we're no longer going from this, like, what is technically a middle ground for the arms. So if we watch it, it's getting there. All right, so then what we have to do is we have to, well, actually, I have to pay attention to body parts, because to be clear, I'm missing a couple steps. So if we've landed on this foot, then there's probably a bit that has to go on here. And I have to decide if I want, how much I want the arms to swing. And I may decide in retrospect that I want this to be a little bit less swung, and I'll have to do this on the other side as well. Yeah, they sort of like finish swinging, like the body, the torso finish is swinging. So I kind of backed off the swing a little bit on this pose because it was further twisting that way, if that makes any sense. There we go. All right, so we've got the character, leaning a bit more, and I also have to decide, because part of falling is the momentum. So technically on the down pose, normally I'm like, oh, from the angle that you're looking at it, it should be balanced. But technically on the down pose, the foot is catching you as you fall. And it's like a couple frames later that your foot's actually properly underneath you. So when looking at the down pose, it actually shouldn't look right by itself. It looks right when we put it in sequence, because our eyes kind of see it go from here to here, and we go, oh, okay, yeah, they landed on their foot. My arms, back was tweaked a little. All right, we'll go with that. Gonna grab this animation editor, and then let's see, contact, passing, contact. Okay, so we want to go. And I did 3 frames between here and there, which means actually this is off by a little bit. I counted wrong, right? Because there's 3 frames, more than 6, and then this is more than 6 frames. So I got to move everything in a little bit. So we're going to copy this, paste it there. And then we're going to take all of this and then just move it down 1. Yeah, because I want this space and this space to be the same. So from contact to passing, it's 6 frames. On my walk cycle, yours might be slower. So I've got a bit of a brisk walk going on here, right? That might change, in the future. But just because between contact to passing it's 6 frames, passing to contact doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the same as well. Right now we've got 8. That's probably a bit too much. I should maybe actually stretch this out so it's 4, 4, 4, and 4. But we'll see. First, we've got to fix our passing pose so that's reversed. So I'm going to pause the video, figure all that math out. But essentially, what I'm doing is writing down what certain things say. So on this, everything is 0 except for that. And I'm just like writing 1. It doesn't have to be 1.007. And then, whoop, broke my pencil. That's those numbers there. Now, one of these will have to get reversed. Not the Y, well, depends on actually the character. So because this one's easier, I'm going to move it over to here first. You know, that's a little bit easier. So if I say negative 0.77, see, yeah, for the feet, usually the y is not the one that's reversed like that for up and down, but in this particular rig it is, which is frustrating. So 0.77, 2.3, nope, negative 2.3, there it is. And then the rotate is 82.5. That's close. Oh, the hips are turned. So it's not going to match exactly because the hips are doing something, right? So even when you're like writing down exact numbers, don't expect everything to look perfect the first time you do that. We're going to put that to 0, and then we're going to put that to, I believe it was at like 1 or something like that. Except, of course, it's got to be -1 because everything is not adding. Oh, I have it in the wrong slot. -1. There it is. Also 0. So the heel ball was up, which means I have to go to here and put that to 2. Yep. All right, cool. So for reversing this, I want to reverse, if I look over here, the X, because it's shifted over. So I say negative, and then we can see how it moves over. And then if I change to my other thing here, it's the Z axis that gets reversed. So I'm going to say negative. There we go. And so it should reverse the way the hips are tilted. Doesn't look like much of a reversal because I also got to do it to this, and this has a much larger. There it is. Select that and save. And I'm going to do the same reversal for all the Y and Z directions on the spine. So just give me 1 minute. Just checking in real quick to point out that it's basically just if there's a minus sign, I get rid of it. And if there isn't one, I add one, but only for the Y and Z because that's the one, whether they're leaning forwards or backwards is actually going to be the same for the passing pose regardless of whether they're facing left or right. And you're probably looking at this going, what the heck? Well, I didn't reverse the arms yet. So that's why it looks, a little bit silly. All right, that took a little bit because I tend to be bad with reversing things. Anything time that something is either or, I tend to mix it up. But the good news is that with the arms, it doesn't look like, at least so far, I'm not finding any axes that I'm using that need to be reversed. They're just swapped. So left goes to right, right goes to left. I don't have to do any negative, positive jazz. But I was watching it and I think it's a little bit too fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to space these back out so that it's like 4 in between. So like this. And this is why we're not doing any overlapping action yet, because we still want to figure out, oops, make sure I move that. Want to figure out how long I want this to take, right? And then I need to make sure that my workspace goes just shy of 33 frames. So I want 32 frames for here. There we go. Let's see how that looks. Huh. Interesting. Oh. Anyone else see that? That foot looked really weird for a second there, but maybe I'm hallucinating. It's not exactly playing well, which makes my life harder. It's because I'm recording my screen. And you can tell if it looks different each time, trust your eyes. If it looks different each time, something in the playback is being a little bit funny. And I can see, am I set to every frame? No, I'm set to, it's supposed to, play at the right speed every time. So that's just something I have to, kind of work with. But that's the down pose. The down pose again is when there it is. When the body is at its lowest, right? So contact, you go down from the contact, and then from there you go up to the highest pose, right? So down is the the lowest pose for the body. It is also the furthest apart for the arms. So they go further apart from here than they do from the contact. And I'm noticing that my contact is probably too high. So as I build this up, I sometimes tend to notice some things I would rather change. So I can go to my other contact. I can go to this one here, and I can be like, all right, we don't need to have the arms that high, right? And then that way, oh, I gotta click on the viewport you want to actually preview. Ooh, that kind of helps actually. All right, there's somewhere for it to go. And now I just realized what the flipping around was. We're gonna go here, we're gonna select this, we're gonna go to our graph editor. There's a set of keys that are off frame. It's a repeat of this. And I have them there because eventually we need to connect the dots and there needs to be actual animation in there. But I think right now it's not quite matching, and that's what was flipping around. Let's see. Yeah, that was part of the problem. Because eventually we want that to be kind of off screen technically, but this pose, will lead into that pose. And so in order for it to properly loop, you need a duplicate of your first keyframe just off screen, basically. So they're heading to the same spot. All right, so down pose. Look, there we go. Lowest part of the body. Therefore, the head is also the lowest usually. Arms are furthest apart. And if you look at it by itself, it is the character's not balanced. They're about to, they've just landed on their foot while falling. A frame or two later, the foot will be underneath them. And it definitely will be for the passing pose. But this pose in and of itself will not necessarily look correct, and that's okay. But again, go ahead and follow along with one of the Richard Williams poses to give yourself a better idea of where to go for this one.